trailer's actually pretty amazing.
When the trailer opened, it was the most amazing thing. I was like, what is this? Is this Monster Hunter?
So at this year's Gamescom, Capcom brought their upcoming game, Monster Hunter World, for players to demo. As people started uploading videos to YouTube, I started to notice a trend in the comments. Lots of shade being thrown at the Nintendo fans for not being able to play this newest entry, and some salty responses from said fans. I'm not saying all Nintendo fans are salty about this. Well, I think there's varying levels of salt in the Nintendo community about this game, and that's why I want to talk about it. When I saw this game first get revealed during Sony's E3 presentation, it was a bittersweet moment for sure. I had mentioned that this was my game of the show when I was doing my E3 response videos. Like, that was the thing I was most excited to play, at least in terms of games that actually showed, well, a game. While it was a cool moment to be sure, I knew this meant Nintendo fans, the Switch, we're all getting put on the back burner. And when the Switch was first announced, this was the franchise I was most excited to see on it. If you followed me since the Wii U days, you know Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate was one of the games I couldn't shut up about. Specifically, I loved how you could take the game on the go with the 3DS and transfer the saves between the 3DS and the Wii U versions. You see, Monster Hunter I find to be an interesting case in that I think the gameplay is great for a handheld, but the immense scale of the monsters and your battles with them is best appreciated on a big screen. So of course, when I first saw the Switch, I thought this was going to be the perfect game for the system, and a game built from the ground up for the Switch would be a huge visual improvement in terms of the visuals for the franchise. Won't it be nice to see a Monster Hunter game built for this HD system, I thought. Sure it would, but problem is, this game's coming out for everything but the Switch. Now, I own all the systems plus a PC, so it's not like I'm about to rage on how I can't play the game. In fact, it might be a nice opportunity to put that $500 Xbox One X I just pre-ordered to work. But I can't help but say it still sucks to know that it's not going to be something I can take on the go. And beyond just the simple portability, I feel like one of the things a lot of people don't mention enough when it comes to playing games, specifically online games with the Switch, as a advantage is the possibility of local play. I mean, with a game like Monster Hunter, I could easily get, 3 of my buddies over with their Switches, and we could be playing on a local connection rather than relying on the internet and dealing with lag, disconnections, and all that other fun stuff that goes into playing games online. In terms of the game releasing on other platforms and the PC, I'm honestly fine with it. I mean, that's Capcom's decision. They've been in some pretty dire financial circumstances over the past few years, so I can't say I'm really surprised that they'd want to pull the trigger on getting this franchise out to a bigger audience. And while sure, the game could have been on the Switch as well, let's be honest, that would hold back from what they're trying to do here, and that's a sacrifice we make, guys, right? With Nintendo going this different route. If they did a straight-up box that plays video games like the Xbox One and PS4, I have no doubt we'd be getting this game. But we wanted something different, and when you get that, you're going to have to expect to miss out on some stuff. And I think people get that. Nintendo fans get that. We miss out on stuff all the time. They accept it normally, but Monster Hunter isn't just any franchise to Nintendo players. The Monster Hunter games have called Nintendo systems home for many years at this point, and done well. Players have supported this franchise. This isn't something that's been struggling. So you can see why they feel a bit dissed when Capcom decides to pack it up and move on. And here's where I take some issue. Monster Hunter Double Cross, a port of a 3DS game, is coming to the Switch, but in Japan only. Here's where Capcom could have thrown us a bone. Like, sure, I don't want to sound ungrateful, Capcom. I'm so humbled by you releasing Street Fighter 2 on the Switch, a game I only have like 75 versions of at this point. But you're already porting this game for Japan. Is a localization really asking that much? It's a game you already made that you're already porting to the system. Can you really not just localize it for the West? Because here's the thing, I think the Nintendo fans, they don't really care that much, in my opinion, about not being able to play specifically Monster Hunter World, as much as they just want a Monster Hunter game that they can play on their Switch and bring it on the go, dock it on their TV, etc. I think if this game, this port, was confirmed for the West, people would be fine with that. But it's like, come on. Okay, you don't want to make sacrifices on World to make a Switch version. I totally get it. But you can't even just localize this port you're already committed to making. That, I think, really does suck for fans of the series who are hoping for some Monster Hunter action on the Switch. But I don't think all hope is lost. For one, the Switch is doing great. The success of Capcom's Street Fighter release, as much as I'm, throwing jokes at it, it did perform better than they expected, and they're bringing more stuff over. All I know for sure off the top of my head is the Revelations games, Resident Evil Revelations games, they're coming over, which is kind of cool. But with Capcom's games performing well on the Switch, and they know, Monster Hunter obviously is a mega franchise for Nintendo fans, so obviously it's going to do well. I would not be surprised if we get some sort of Monster Hunter game at some point. But even in the worst case scenario, Capcom decides not to at all, just doesn't do anything Monster Hunter related for the Switch, at least outside Japan. I think we'll likely end up with an alternative. There is definitely a demand for the Monster Hunter experience on the Switch. It's been proven through other Nintendo platforms, and if you go on the internet, it's one of the franchises that Switch owners have a high interest in. And if Capcom's not going to give it to the players, someone else will. Hell, maybe Nintendo will do some sort of online action RPG of their own. They have been venturing into some uncharted territory over the last couple years. I mean, even just a few years ago, who would have expected their next big franchise from Nintendo was going to be a third-person shooter? And they just did ARMS, a fighter, so who knows? You're definitely going to have a void here on the Switch if Capcom's not going to bring anything Monster Hunter over, at least not in the near future. So I wouldn't be surprised if Nintendo or other developers are taking note and looking in to fill that void somehow. But with that, this video is a wrap. Like I said, Monster Hunter World, I'm going to play it regardless on something. I'm just saying I would like to have some sort of Monster Hunter experience to play on the Switch, just to utilize the whole, on the TV, off TV, on the go. All those aspects I think would have been great to play a Monster Hunter game that way. And I'm not really one of these people that, feels like they have some kind of ownership over these franchises, like, oh, the Nintendo fans, we supported you, you owe us, and all that. Like, they gave us good games. That's why we supported them. And, like, I'm old enough to remember when Bayonetta made the jump to the Wii U and was an exclusive, and all the people who supported the original Bayonetta on Xbox and PlayStation, they were salty about that. And, here all of us Nintendo fans were like, haha, we got it, you didn't. I know a lot of you guys, you were taking joy and poking them about that. So, this is a business at the end of the day. These companies don't really care about the fanboy wars like we do. They're just looking at this as a business opportunity. Capcom, they feel like World, in the long run, it's better off this way. But even with that said, I do get where some of these Switch people are coming from within reason. The Monster Hunter games have been such a staple of Nintendo platforms for so long. I would say pretty much everyone up until the Monster Hunter World game was announced, or at least when the rumors of it started to generate. I don't think many of us had a question. I don't even think it was a question of whether or not we were going to get Monster Hunter on the Switch. And now that the future of Monster Hunter games on Nintendo hardware, at least, again, outside Japan, are in question, I can see why people are a bit irritated. Especially with the Switch being still pretty new, and finding this out, I get that it comes as a blow. But yeah, with that, this video's a wrap. Let me know your thoughts on the Monster Hunter Worlds deal in the comments. If you're a Switch owner, would you be satisfied if the Double Cross game port just got a localization? As always, I'm John Zakari, and thanks for watching.